What's going on, folks? Welcome to episode 4 of the Aussie Geek Party Chat podcast. This is a podcast all about, well, pretty much all things geek. Our usual host for the evening, Nick, is not with us, so I'll be taking over once again. My name is Michael, and with me tonight on the panel is the Scooby-Doo to my Shaggy, Darren Barnes. Say g'day.
Hello, everybody.
We have the owner of the Aussie Gamer YouTube channel, but also a regular contributor at Aussie Geek and pretty much part of the furniture now, Wes.
Hello, guys. Good to be back.
You've appeared now more times than our host, so that's a pretty good track record for a special guest. And joining us tonight for his first foray into the podcasting world, but definitely no stranger to the Aussie Geek family, is Mick. He's a regular contributor, so say g'day, Mick.
Hey, guys.
And as is the custom for a new face on the panel, we'd like to hear a little bit about you as a geek and what sort of brought you to where you are now. So if you want to give us a bit about yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Well, like everyone, I guess I started out with the Atari when I was a wee tucker and just sort of never moved on from games. I'm not much of a sports person, so hiding away in a darkened room became the lifestyle of choice for me. And then working in the industry for quite a while within retail and things like that. Sort of drives me to what I want to do, and I'm lazy, so playing games fits me perfectly.
Very good. So tonight we've got a pretty jam-packed episode. We're going to be taking a look at finally Jessica Jones. We've threatened to do this now for 3 episodes, so tonight is the night. We're also going to take a look at the Game Awards and the PlayStation Experience, and we're going to go over just how wrong we were about the whole thing. But, because, by God, we were wrong. But anyway, we'll kick on. We'll move on to some news first, though, and we'll start with the announcement that Overwatch has... So this is the Blizzard MOBA that's not a MOBA. They've officially announced that extra maps and characters will be free DLC. Anyone got any thoughts on that they want to add?
Free DLC is great.
Yeah, look, there does seem to be. I can't really specifically talk about that one, but there does seem to be a trend to make things appear free now. So it'd be interesting to see if they're actually free or if it's just kind of another marketing hook. Time will tell.
Yeah, I think given that the 2 biggest MOBAs in the world, being LoL and Dota, are pretty much free but use cosmetics as their buy-in, I think maybe that's the path they'll go. But I guess we'll see. Here's an interesting one. CD Projekt Red, the developers of one of this year's Game of the Year contenders, The Witcher 3, apparently is aiming for a 2016 publishing date. Now, we got a quote from a German website called Game Reactor. Now, this is sort of run through the Google Translator that said, CD Projekt Red wants Cyberpunk 2077 now published end 2016. This has a source close to the company, confirms Game Reactor. I love what Google Translate did to that.
It's a great quote.
What are the odds that this is true and can happen?
Neither of those things are. It's neither true nor going to happen. I don't see CD Projekt Red rolling in a second game around in 2 years. Witcher 3 this year. Cyberpunk's not coming out next year.
They're already talking about the successor to The Witcher 3 too, and getting cracking on Witcher 4, so maybe that'll be the priority.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see them if they're running a second team now, given the success of it. But these guys have said earlier this year, I think it was, they said that they're not even going to talk about Cyberpunk till 2017. So to go from not talking about the game to full release end of a year earlier is, it's pretty keen.
Yeah, and this is meant to be their biggest game yet, so bigger than The Witcher 3. So I don't know how they could turn it around. I mean, they may have 2 teams working. Maybe they've been working on this for a lot longer than we think. But I'd say that it's probably a little bit longer away than this report.
Also announced today, as a nice little piece of side news, is the 3rd game in a very long dormant series, System Shock, officially announced. There's not a lot of details around this one. It's basically just a splash screen with the word System Shock and a big 3. but yeah, confirmed by I think Looking Glass Studio are doing it. Anyone caught up with that?
I saw that it was happening, and I saw there's nothing more than the fact that it is happening that we know yet. But yeah, I can't remember who it was. Was it them or somebody? I can't remember who it was that was working on it. But yeah, great. Who knows what it is?
Well, I know that there was someone working on a sort of a HD remake of, I think, the original System Shock. So, be interesting to see what they do with it. Moving along and talking about remakes, actually, Final Fantasy VII. Now, we knew this was coming, but it was revealed that it was going to be a multi-release game. Now, Darren, you've been able to... Well, Darren's been able to get some actual confirmation from the publishers, haven't you, Darren?
Well, confirmation's an odd word to use. What I got was non-confirmation. I reached out to them because when I read it, and the specific quote being it's going to be a multi-part release, because when you turn a game that was as big as Final Fantasy VII into a modern release, it's too big to be one game, basically. A lot of outlets jumped on that and started using the word episodic. In the interview where this information came out, episodic was not the word that Square Enix used. They said it was a multi-part release. So that led me to believe it was more along the lines of previous Final Fantasy games like Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy XIII that ended up having more than one game in that Final Fantasy series. So I reached out to our contacts at Square Enix, and they basically said that that is an interesting question, and that they had no more to add.
What a non-answer!
Yeah. So they said they are not aware of any updates to come directly from Square Enix anytime soon, and we'll wait and see what the team's vision for the remake is in good time. So I got nothing.
Do you think, Wes, do you think that people will be miffed at having to buy or at least at the concept of having to buy a game twice to get the full story in that respect?
Well, it seems to be a bit of a trend in this generation that we're getting used to buying stuff we already own, whether it be through backwards compatibility or the new PS2 versions on the PS4. So maybe it's just an extension of that, really. But yes, I think the short answer is yes. I think people are getting miffed to buy stuff that they already own, and maybe even from an episodic point of view, maybe the Telltale games have set the boundary for that, or kind of the precedent that everyone's going to follow now. You know, it's not as insulting to pay $15 7 times as it is to go and pay, $85 or $90 outright. Maybe that's the theory.
Not sure how that's going to pay out, so I guess we'll just keep a close eye on it. Now, over the weekend, we, for those of us who have purchased the Nathan Drake collection on the PlayStation 4, if you haven't and you've got a PlayStation 4, get it because it's an amazing game, or trilogy. But you got a chance to try the Uncharted 4 multiplayer beta. Did anyone get a chance over that period to have a look at it? And if so, what are the thoughts?
Yeah, I played a few rounds of it. It ran good. It seemed quite fun. I liked the traversal with the rope hook and everything, being able to get around the map pretty quickly. It just feels like Uncharted multiplayer. I don't know what more to say about it than that. I guess it's. I never played much of the previous Uncharted multiplayer. Or
it only came in
The
on
Last of Us 3, yeah. I never played that or The Last of Us multiplayer much at all, so it's not something that I probably can compare to what's come before it, but I had fun.
Okay. Mick, what do you
think?
I'm
a bit the same.
Oh, sorry, let's go on.
I'm a bit the same, so I had a brief look at it, but no real time to actually go and play it. I don't look at the Uncharted games as a kind of a multiplayer experience for me, so I actually prefer just the story mode in that style of game, but I can see that it's definitely improved from the previous versions of multiplayer in the Uncharted series, so it looks fun.
Okay. That's actually literally what I was going to ask Mick, but if you want to throw your thoughts in, Mick, do you think the multiplayer is a draw card on games like Uncharted, or is it just extra fluff that probably isn't needed?
I think it is generally a bit of extra fluff that's not really needed, but it does sometimes offer a bit of a break from the main story and a bit of fun. I did play a little bit of the multiplayer on Uncharted 3, but not being a third-person multiplayer gamer as such, I couldn't really get into it. It's very difficult type of gameplay. It's not like more so than your Call of Duties or anything like that. It's a typical shooter. So I really struggled, and I do think that when they just invest so much into stories, you don't really need to worry about that multiplayer side of things.
Yeah, agreed. I thought it was interesting that the Tomb Raider reboot featured a multiplayer, which was, it was serviceable, but it was interesting to see Rise of the Tomb Raider kind of drop that, really, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing, because the story does definitely benefit from it when they spend all their time and effort on the story.
Moving on now, a little bit away from games. Last week in the podcast, we spoke about the teaser for the Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice trailer, and by the time that we actually sent the podcast out, the trailer had dropped, the full-length one, but we've had a chance to look at it and had a chance to sort of digest it all a bit, I guess. So we'll start again. I'll start with you, Mick. What were your thoughts on the trailer? I know you're a huge Batman fan, so.
Yeah, I am a massive Batman fan, and I've had faith in Batfleck ever since the announcement. So to see a lot more in the trailer really did impress me. I wish DC would leave a little bit for the movie instead of showing you most of the major plot turns, but unfortunately they did give away quite a lot if you didn't really read into a lot of the articles that are floating around on the internet about the movie itself from certain actors that play characters that should be dead. But as a whole, I was definitely impressed with the trailer. I'm looking forward to it. It's made it into the top 5 movies for next year for me, but I can understand where some people are coming from when they say it's fallen away from what their expectations were initially.
That's a good segue to launch over to Wes's thoughts on it, because I knew after last week you weren't a huge fan of the Batfleck as it was.
Look, I'm actually more impressed with Ben Affleck now than I was previously. But having said that, the trailer was so good that I actually feel I've seen the movie. It was great, and I give it an 8 out of 10. So, that's probably I agree with you, Mick. They should have left a little bit to that mysterious, what's it going to be all about. Then the other one was is it Jesse Eisenberg?
Oh no,
his Lex Luthor.
That has got to be worst casting.
Yeah, is it Lex supposed to be bald, or is that just my stereotypical view of Lex? What's happening up there?
Yeah, Lex technically, traditionally is bald, and also doesn't usually sound like Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yes. It's hard to determine whether he's trying to be Lex or trying to be the Joker. I haven't quite figured that out yet. But there you go. Maybe a mashup.
What about you, Darren? What were your thoughts on it?
I liked all of it apart from Jesse Eisenberg. I just could not get past that voice. As soon as he opened his mouth, I thought, what the hell is this? I'm even more keen than ever to see more Ben Affleck as Batman. But yeah, I don't know. I know that they revealed Doomsday in the trailer, and a lot of people are worried that they're sort of giving away too much of it, as obviously Mick and Wes have pointed out. I feel that there's still more to it. I don't know whether they should have maybe kept that under wraps and just kept everybody thinking it's going to be Batman and Superman and that's it. Everybody knew that there had to be some other thing that it's going to end up being, much like Civil War has to end up with something else when that movie drops. It can't just be Iron Man and Captain America beating the hell out of each other for the whole movie. Eventually they have to make up and sort out something that's a little bit more important. But I'm worried about Jesse Eisenberg, but I still think there's a lot to come, because we know that that Aquaman's going to be in it. We know that Cyborg's going to be in it. It was just revealed that the Flash is going to be in it. So there must still be some reason for all of these guys to to join in. I don't know whether Doomsday is going to be too powerful for the 3 that you see in the trailer, and they have to call all the buddies in to sort it out. And if that is the case, what are they leaving left for Justice League? But the trailer has me mostly excited. We'll see.
My understanding with the Flash was that he was a super brief cameo, sort of not even in his skivvies sort of thing. So maybe they'll just sort of say, "Oh look, here's a guy named Barry. See you, Barry," and off he goes.
Do you think though they've watered down this potential or perceived conflict between Batman and Superman? Because the previous stuff that I've seen, I've gone, you know what, this is going to be this intense battle between Batman and Superman. But now all of a sudden it's not quite that anymore. It's Batman and Superman versus some of these other characters.
I think that's a very clever idea on their behalf, actually, because if you went in there expecting that massive conflict and it turned out that was only the first 30 minutes of the movie, you'd be pissed off. So I think that unveiling that is not the case, that there is Doomsday for them to join together and fight in the end. I think they had to do that. But at the same time, it's obviously upset people that they now know that is the case. But yeah, if you went in there expecting 2 hours of Batman fighting Superman and that was what you went in there to watch, you were going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
It feels a little Tango and Cashy to me. The rivals at the start and then buddies at the end to take on the cocaine dealers or whatever it is.
Just with less cocaine. I assume.
Well,
maybe Doomsday is a fiend.
Oh dear. All right. Well, let's move on to some of our bigger discussion points, and I want to start tonight with the Game Awards and the PlayStation experience that happened over the weekend, and we made some pretty interesting predictions. Pretty much all of which were wrong. The only things that we got right were the things that we already knew were going to happen and were confirmed. So I don't think you can technically call those predictions in the old school, but I take what we've got.
Even one of those was wrong. Even one of the things that was confirmed beforehand turned out to be wrong. Where was the Mortal Kombat X character reveal? It never happened. During the show, that didn't happen. It came out beforehand, but it was meant to be part of the show for the Game Awards, but it never happened during the Game Awards. It's like they went, oh, that already got dropped, we'll just pull that out. So one of the things we went in expecting didn't even happen.
So let's start with what we got right, which was the reveal of Far Cry Primal and some gameplay footage. I think Darren suggested that basically you're going to progress animals. That's going to be your level up animals. Yes. Pretty much that's exactly what it was.
On the money.
What do we think of what we've seen of this game so far? I know that there was a fairly sizable chunk of gameplay was released. Did anyone catch it, and anyone have some thoughts on it?
Yeah, sorry. You go, Vic.
I haven't actually caught any of it. I'm still trying to catch up on all that news that was released. So.
What about you, Darren?
I watched as much footage as I've been able to consume. I'm a bit of a Far Cry fan, so I am very excited for it. I like that it's going in a completely different direction. Far Cry 4 felt a little bit samey to me after Far Cry 3, so I'm really excited that they're doing something different with it. The one thing I was confused as to why it's called Far Cry. To me, it's so different that I thought they should have had it as a new IP and just call it Primal. And here's a new IP that we can start alternating through with Far Cry maybe. But yeah, I'm excited to see what it's all about.
Wasn't it the Far Cry guys that put out a survey many months ago to see what sort of environment that gamers actually wanted? Was this one of the ones that people voted for? I can't remember the outcome.
I don't know whether I ever saw the outcome of that, but I know that fighting dinosaurs was in that list, and I'm pretty sure that this might have been. But yeah, that's where I assume it came from. They gauged some interest as to where people thought they wanted to go, and at that point, I thought that they were actually gauging that for it to be like a smaller release, like the Blood Dragon release. But it's turned out to be a full release game. So.
I actually think the game will be okay. I think it'll be pretty good.
I like the concepts, I like the ideas, but I watched the gameplay footage and I was bored shitless. He wandered around with his pet saber-toothed tiger or whatever it was, piss-farted around jumping into a puddle in a cave. I just turned it off. So I need to see something more, and I need to see something a bit more exciting, I think, than that. So going on to the other prediction we had, which was not a prediction but just being told a fact, was the gameplay, well, kind of Quantum Break. It's changed significantly since I last saw it, I have to say.
Where did you watch the Gamescom footage? When they revealed that it had changed, that Shaun Ashmore was Iceman was now the lead, and they did unveil all of that at, I'm pretty sure it was Gamescom or one of the events that came post E3. And yeah, it has changed heaps from where we saw it previous to that. I'm very excited for that game, and it's not too far away now, so that's good.
Mick, they announced this when it was first announced. It was going to be paired up with a TV series, going through Xbox TV when that was still a thing. Do you reckon they're still going to push ahead with that idea?
It'll be interesting to see if they do. I mean, with all the TV series that are out at the moment, they've got a really difficult sort of area to break into. So hopefully they do push into it and they do bring something new to the table that will work well to coincide with the game. I hope it is more of a prequel to the game to lead up to the events of what happens. But so I guess time will tell.
Well, they did that with another MMO, didn't they? I can't even think what it's called. There was a sci-fi TV series about aliens that had crashed into the planet and now they had to live here, sort of thing. I had an Australian actor in it. I can't remember what it's called.
Yep, it starts with D, and I can't think. I actually watched the first season of it too, and I can't think of what it's called. Yeah, that's the one.
Defiance. There you
go. But yeah, what you were talking about, the TV thing, that was all in that Gamescom or whatever it was demo. So the TV show is still a thing. It obviously now has Shaun Ashmore in it, and it's got I can't remember the actor's name, but Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. And a few other known actors that if you saw them, you'll recognise them. But it's part of the game now. It's within the game. Obviously, the Xbox TV thing's gone. And basically, it shows the villain side of the story. So you're playing as Shaun Ashmore through the hero side, and the TV show focuses more on the villains. What you do in the game can affect the TV show or something like that. That's still a thing, but it basically is going to be cutscenes in between chapters of the game is what I got from what they said. So it is still a thing, but it's now embedded into the game rather than being something that you sort of had to go and do separately on Xbox TV.
I think it's going to be a title that Microsoft really try and leverage hard for next year. I think they'll really push it and jump behind it from a marketing point of view. I'm yet to be convinced whether it's a must-buy title, but I'm still very intrigued. I just want to, I guess, experience that gameplay before I sort of cast judgment on it.
That being said, Remedy haven't really released a dud game at least in a very long time. Ever. There you go. Ever. From the horse's mouth, as it were. Alan Wake was amazing. Max Payne was revolutionary. So I've got a lot of faith in them.
Yep.
Now, taking a look at what we did predict, we'll just quickly go through these because, frankly, they're all wrong. The new game, the new character for Mortal Kombat. Yep. Okay. Well, it was kind of announced, so I'll give that a 0.5 of a point. We mentioned that 10 new game announcements were going to occur. I think that was pretty much off the money. I think we only got 2 new game announcements.
Well, it depends on whether you're talking about AAA or not. There was more than 10 games announced. They were just games that a lot of people didn't really pay much attention to.
Yeah, or stuff that had leaked out earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we got to 10, I'm calling that a win, and we'll bang on the money.
Yeah, I'll pay that one.
Of course. It's the only one we got right, so move along.
Sony Santa Monica Revelation. There was nothing from Sony Santa Monica. Sony Bend that you were also very convinced of, Darren. Nothing
was
there.
I was completely convinced Sony Bend and Sony Santa Monica would have something, but clearly I'm wrong.
We were also pretty adamant that No Man's Sky was going to be mentioned in some way, shape, or form, be it through VR or just a flat-out actual release date. We got nothing. Again.
Wasn't there?
And the other one was a revelation of some sort from Sucker Punch. Again, nothing there. So, not exactly a great scorecard for us, but it was. They weren't unreasonable predictions. So let's talk a bit about what actually was announced. So, Mick, being the Batman fan that you are, I'll go to you on this one first of all. Telltale's Batman game. What are you thinking?
I am very excited for this game. I love pretty much everything that Telltale has released, at least in the last generation. So it'd be interesting to see what sort of story they go with. I mean, there's a lot of different story and lore that they can work with out there in the Batman universe. So to see what they do actually decide to use to create some of this style of game will be very, very interesting, and I'm really looking forward to it.
What about you, Wes? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I'm relatively new to the whole world of Telltale games. I just finished the first episode of Game of Thrones last night, and I've got to say I'm hooked. I think it had the same, or almost the same intensity that the actual TV show had. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what they're going to do with it. If it's anything like the Minecraft story mode one, I think it'll go pretty damn well.
Darren?
I just want to know how many people are working at Telltale. I have no idea how they're going to make all of these games that they've been announcing. They seem to they release one game in Minecraft and announce another 5. So I don't know. I don't know how many studios they've got. I don't know how they're going to work on what have they got. They've got Walking Dead, Michonne, which meant to come out early next year. They've got a second season of Game of Thrones. They've got a second season of Tales from the Borderlands. They've got this Batman game. They've got a Marvel game. They've got a new IP that they're supposed to be working on as well. I just don't know how they have so many games that they're working on.
Well, I guess they've got the benefit of, realistically, to get the first episode out, they don't need to do the full game. They perhaps need to have it storyboarded out, but they don't need the full game in place. They can work on Batman Episode 1, finish it, release it, come out with Walking Dead Michonne, then move on to something else, then back to Batman 1. Get a couple of teams going. I can see it happening.
Yeah, and from a visual point of view, they look good, but they're no kind of, super graphically powered kind of new age game. So, maybe it doesn't take the resources that some of the AAA titles necessarily do.
Mm. Yeah. And they're great. Maybe, sorry, Darren, go.
Maybe make half as many games and improve the engine. That would probably be where I would go.
Yeah.
That's a bit rough.
Hey, I love Telltale games, so I've enjoyed every series so far.
Yeah.
Well, since Walking Dead, we'll go with that. I've enjoyed them also.
Yeah, the first ones were a bit patchy, weren't they? What was it, Back to the Future?
Jurassic Park was crap.
Jurassic Park, Back to the Future, and Goosebumps were the early ones that weren't very good. a bit clunky.
Mm. Moving on a little, VR. VR was front and center at PlayStation Experience. I wasn't particularly impressed with anything I saw. For me, it feels very much like the Kinect. I think it's going to be an interesting collection of tech demos and not a lot more. But what do you guys think, Darren?
I think VR is going to be very, very difficult for all of these game developers going forward to demo on stage like they tried to do. It's one thing to watch it on a flat screen and have somebody else standing there with the helmet on, but you need to be able to wear it and try it yourself to actually get what they're about. Was it Rez that was announced at PSX? I'm sure that would be awesome if you were wearing the helmet, but watching the demo on screen, it just looked like Rez. It looked like another Rez, and I don't know whether that's quite center stage exciting, but and if that's the best game so far that's been shown off on it, then I'm a little bit worried. I've tried a couple of different games on VR. I haven't tried the PlayStation VR yet, but on Oculus and I can't say that there's anything that's made me want to buy one and sit in my lounge room and play VR games. So I'm still waiting to see what that is.
What about you, Mick? What do you think?
Look, to be honest, I'm not overly excited for it. I've used the Samsung VR with a lot of mobile games, and as cool as it is to be sitting in your lounge room with in your own little reality, I guess, playing whether it be a sniper game or a hunting game or something along those lines, the ones that they're pumping out on the mobile devices. But
Candy Crush.
Yeah, virtual Candy Crush. Yeah. Look, I honestly don't see it taking off. I think you're right when you said it's going to be another Kinect. I think it'll probably come around for maybe a couple of years. There'll be some titles released. A couple of people will jump on board, and then it'll just fall away. Which is it's sad because they're investing a lot of money into this thing.
Yeah, I could see it used for non-gaming things a lot more usefully than games. Personally, I like virtual tourism and things like that. It'll obviously take off with the porn industry, but I don't know. I just don't know what it's bringing to games like Alien Isolation. I would have thought would have been an awesome game to play in VR, and it didn't really add all that much to the experience. I mean, it made it a little bit scarier, I guess, but all that does is invite people to walk up behind you when you're wearing the headset and grab hold of you and scare the shit out of you. I don't like it.
Wes, you with these guys?
I am. I think I am. Look, I'll preface this by saying, look, I want the PlayStation VR to be hugely successful. I think they've invested a whole heap of money behind it. I'm excited for it. But I tell you what, Sony seem to be taking lessons in how to not market a product successfully. The demos they did at that PlayStation experience to me were turning more people off than getting them excited for PlayStation VR, and that's a real tragedy. So, there's no games that I saw out of that which were you know what, they're must-buy games. They're just, tech demos is the way to describe it, and experiences at this point.
Yeah, and it's been angled as pricing around the same sort of price as a console. So if you're talking about it being around the $400, $500 mark in Australia, and all you're going to get is a few tech demos, then I don't see it doing very well at all. Like you're talking about, I could go and buy, if you say you've got the PlayStation, you could go and buy an Xbox One or the Nintendo NX next year instead, and have a whole slew of real games that you can play rather than just a few tech demos that you can use with your helmet. So.
Yeah, look, I think we discussed this last week, but there was that question around what the hell are all the Sony developers doing, and I think there's no question that the Sony strategy right now is really clear, that they've got their own guys working on VR titles, and they're stitching up all the third-party AAA stuff so that they've got actually something to market with the PlayStation 4. So at least that's my sort of best educated guess on what's happening in the market from a Sony point of view.
I think that if Sony are saving their best, biggest studios to work on VR, they are putting all of their eggs into a basket with a colossal hole in the bottom, because what you basically ending up with is a promise to people to spend another, as you say, $400 or $500 to get a device in order to play these games. When you look at, say, Microsoft are just saying, you know what, here's the best we've got. You play it on the console you got now. No need to buy all this other rubbish. I just see it as a colossal waste, and frankly, it would surprise me if their board would even let it happen. I would have thought that would have been a massive risk.
I think if they put it out there, though, and there's no content, it'll burn super quickly, so at least they need something that's going to compel consumers to buy it in the first place, and then other developers to go, you know what, this is decent enough to jump on board with.
Yeah, that's true. They do need that sort of stuff to drive sales of it. But the problem they'll have is if they get all of their main developers working on things for PlayStation VR, they're just going to piss off everybody who has the PS4 now and doesn't want VR, because it'll be another year or another couple of years of no first-party games. I know we've got a few coming out next year, but if everybody then is moving on to working on PlayStation VR games, are we going to have another year like this year where there is nothing for PlayStation 4?
Yeah.
Is the PlayStation Move compatible with the PS4? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you kind of need that to make VR work properly.
And the camera, as I understand it.
Oh, so it is a requirement of the actual product at that stage.
That's my understanding of what you need. Hence the lights that are always on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it. I think it's going to fizzle. Anyway, we'll move on. We will. Oh, this was an interesting one that was announced at. Was it at the Game Award? Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 is coming. It's been crowdfunded through. I think it's called Pods. Is that
Fig?
Fig. That's
is this the profit share one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is exactly the one. So the idea being that you invest a certain amount, and I think the minimum is about $500 US, and if the game sells X amount, then you start making a profit. And the idea being that if Psychonauts 2 sells the same amount as Psychonauts 1, then you basically double your investment. That's kind of the pitch at this stage.
Oh, was it? I thought that it was way above what Psychonauts 1 sold before you start making any money. Because Psychonauts 1 did not sell very much at all. I thought this was in the multi-millions of copies sold before any money gets made. So, yeah, it's
1.5
talking.
million units is what they said they shipped with Psychonauts. So apparently, if they sell 600,000, I think it was 600,000 copies of the game, then you break even, and from that point on, you're potentially making money.
Well, that's not as bad as I thought. I thought that they had to sell like in excess of 2 million before you start making a cent. Which when I heard those numbers, and this is what was been flying around on the internet, I guess. So take it with a grain of salt. But if you're talking those sort of numbers, then it starts to really seem like it's something that like using the crowdfunding, and the chances of you getting anything back is pretty slim. But if it works and people can actually get some money out of supporting something like this, then that's great.
Wes, do you think that this is going to, because this Fig platform has really only just started with Psychonauts, do you think this is going to take away from the Kickstarter, because Kickstarter is obviously the most popular crowdfunding one, do you think it's going to take away from it at all, or do you think that there's room for both?
Yeah, I think there's definitely room for both. I think the important thing about this one is it gives them an opportunity to differentiate themselves from what everyone else is doing. I will remind people, though, that if you're looking to get rich, this is definitely not going to be the way to do it. So you might make a little bit of money, but you won't be able to retire on your Psychonauts cash back.
Yeah.
And it's a much higher buy-in as well, which will separate it a lot from the other crowdfunding options. So I don't see it really making much of a dent. If people are only interested in, I can put my $20 towards it and I get my game at the end of it, then that's not what this is for.
But you can do it. You can do both. You can be an investor and put that $500 minimum on, or you can just be a backer, and it's got that tiered backing. So it's kind of got a bit of both.
Yeah, I do like these kind of models, though. They are a little bit exciting. We saw, I think it was Domino's do the design your own pizza, and if then people end up buying it, then you profit share and that sort of stuff. So it is, from a marketing point of view, it definitely adds a gimmicky element that gets people at least asking the question. So I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
We might move on. We were going to talk about, there was a stack of PS2 re-releases announced. Does anyone want to pass comment on that at all, or?
Have they announced Aussie pricing for that yet? I think it's $14.95 in the US, so I'm assuming about $20 here in Australia, which to me just sounds astronomical.
They were $22.95, I'm pretty sure.
$22.95. Wow.
Yep.
When you weigh that up with what Microsoft are doing and saying backwards compatible, put your disc in and away you go, I don't know. It just seems like a bad idea.
Well, it's a little bit different. I mean, they can't do backwards compatibility. That's what I got out of this, that it does not work as far as the same way as Microsoft have done it with the Xbox One. We knew that they couldn't do PS3 because of how different the consoles are hardware-wise. But these are not just the old games, by the sounds of it. They are actually up-res to 1080p. I don't know how that looks for a 10-year-old game being just pumped out at 1080p, but we'll see. They also had added trophy support and things like that. I think the price is still a little bit high for a game that old if you compare it to what you do with on the Nintendo with their older games, which also hold up a lot better visually compared to what PS2 games do.
Yeah.
But if people don't buy them, then they'll probably stop doing it, I guess. $22.95 is a bit expensive for a game that's that old when there's new games being created from all of these great indie developers that are the same or even cheaper than that. So I don't see how many old PS2 games are going to sell at that sort of price.
Yeah, look, that's a really great point, because if you take the PlayStation Now service, which is a really cool service, but really expensive. If you look at the fan reaction to that, and consumers aren't really supporting it, so they've just gone and created that 12-month bundle, as I understand it, for about $89.99 US. Now, at those sort of prices, it actually becomes something that you would consider for a full 12-month subscription service. Now, maybe that's the sort of thing that needs to happen with this sort of backwards, we'll call it semi-backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 2. So I don't know. I'll throw it out there. Pick that up for $1. If that comes to backwards compatibility, to me that represents a whole lot of a better value than the PS2 version. So that's just me.
Yeah, that's fair enough too. Staying with PlayStation a bit, an announcement that I was pretty excited to see. Ni no Kuni 2 was announced. Mick, did you play the original?
I didn't play a lot of it. I played enough to get the sort of gist of it. I was never really into the anime, so I found it quite difficult to sort of get into the story. I wouldn't mind checking out number 2, though. Obviously, with the plethora of RPGs that have hit the market as of late, I'd definitely love to get into another one. But
it'll come out late next year, I think, so you'll have enough time to have flushed the Fallout out of your system.
Yeah, so once I get through Fallout, yeah. Since then, I have watched a lot of the animes that are in the same vein as Ni no Kuni, so I think going into a second game, I'd probably have a bit more of an understanding, and after hearing all the good things about the first one, I may even go back and play the first one again.
I recommend you do so because it was pretty amazing. Darren, what are your thoughts on this? I know you love the first one, so obviously you'd be pretty keen for another one.
Woo!
Right, moving along.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked. I love the first game, so that was the best thing that happened at Game Awards or PSX, is seeing that Ni no Kuni 2 logo come up on the screen. I was pretty excited.
Is it now? It's the same studio making it. Are they doing the collaboration with Studio Ghibli?
I didn't see their name. I didn't see their name on any of it, the promo stuff. So I'd say that they are not involved this time, but it still looks the same. Like they've still used the same art style and everything like that. So I'd say they're not directly involved, but it's obviously influenced by what they did with the first game. So yeah, I'm excited. Now just give me a HD remake in between now and when that comes out, then I'm set.
Sorted. What about you, Wes? Did you play the original?
No, I didn't. So, other than it being a sort of anime-style game, I don't know a hell of a lot about this game. But judging on some of those reactions, it sounds like I've missed out something pretty decent. So, yeah, maybe I need to.
How would you, if you're doing the pitch to Wes right now, explain to him what Ni no Kuni is and what makes it so good? Go.
Okay. God, quick pitch. It is Final Fantasy crossed with Pokemon.
Okay.
It's
that is a pretty quick pitch.
It's a pretty quick pitch. It's an interesting game. It actually does a lot of really cool dances with some cool concepts. You've got some. I think isn't there a section of the game where you're inside one of these Pokemon, not Pokemon monsters, like stomach or something?
It's all sorts of weird things happen. It's great.
There's time traveling. It's really odd, but it's a beautiful.
It's quite emotional
game
as well.
Well, there's one thing I'll say about JRPGs is I usually go in fearing that I'm going to hate it, and usually end up being surprised at the end of it that I've played the whole game through and I've finished it. So, you know, that's always pleasant with JRPGs.
I always find myself confused at the end.
Well, Ni no Kuni is the best JRPG of last generation, so PS3 and Xbox 360. It is my favourite.
There you go. There's some endorsement.
Yeah. I'll send you a copy.
Beautiful.
You can probably get one of those $1 versions, surely. Now there was an
I've got a couple.
there was an interesting little tidbit that came out from the Game Awards regarding Hideo Kojima about travel arrangements. Basically, I don't know if you guys caught this, but I think it was after Metal Gear got an award of some description, Jeff Keighley came out and said that Mr. Kojima had every intent. This is the quote: "Mr. Kojima had every intention to be with us here tonight, but unfortunately he was informed by a lawyer representing Konami just recently that he would not be allowed to travel to tonight's award ceremony to accept any awards. It's on their employee contract. It's disappointing and inconceivable to me that an artist like Hideo would not be allowed to come here and celebrate with his peers and his fellow teammates of such an amazing game as Metal Gear Solid 5. What did we think of all of that?
I think Konami are writing the book on how to destroy a game development company. Every week there seems to be another stuff up out of Konami, whether it be like the security cameras for their staff or just stupid stuff that is going on in the background, like getting rid of Kojima's name from the box art, all that sort of stuff. They're just...
Well, in fairness, his name was gone from the box art, but it popped up every 3 to 4 minutes within the game itself.
Yeah,
That's true.
he made sure it was stuck in the game. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was this about security cameras? I must have missed this. What are they? They haven't been caught doing like a pervy thing, have they?
No. They were just, as from an employee point of view, they have to change their emails so they're not sourcing themselves out or looking for other jobs. There's just the security constraints on a Konami employee is apparently out of control. So,
like not being able to accept an award for a game.
There you go.
Yeah.
I would really like to know what actually happened between those two parties, because it's been a mess in public. Like,
It would be a hell of a book.
Yes, absolutely. And apparently
can't
still
wait to
under
read it.
contract. Well, and apparently Hideo is still under contract with Konami, which is very interesting as well, because there was talk that at PSX they may have announced him as like a new lead developer on some special project. So I didn't see that actually happening, but that was one of the rumors floating around.
it seems like they're going a long way to piss off someone they're still keeping on the books, though.
Yeah.
So this is the first thing that seems to actually be like official as far as all of the rumors that are flying around about Konami and Kojima. For Keighley to say that live on the Game Awards was pretty bold. I thought and I'm glad he did, because it's really the first thing that we've heard officially through as to what's happening over there. Like, we don't know if Kojima did anything to piss Konami off. We don't know what's happened inside those doors, but it's certainly making for interesting reading.
Yeah, true. Look, kudos to Jeff Keighley for doing it. I thought his presentation at the awards was generally pretty poor. I think it was very cardboard-like, and I think he spent a lot of the time looking down at the floor, or at least that's what it looked like. But it definitely took some kahunas to get up and say a statement like that. So, well done to him as well.
I think that he called Konami out in the most eloquent and polite way possible. So I think good on him for that. Mick, did you have anything you wanted to add on that one?
Yeah, I haven't really been diving too deep into the story behind it. I've always liked Metal Gear as a franchise, so I don't want to invest myself into the heartbreak of Hideo and Konami sort of leaving, separating. But it's like watching your parents fight. And I mean, Metal Gear Solid 5 was an absolute masterpiece. So I mean, everyone sort of says, "Geez, you're generous with the reviews, with giving 10s and stuff like that." But Metal Gear Solid was genuinely a game that I could not find a fault with, and I absolutely loved it. And it's a very deserving winner of Best Score soundtrack that it won the other day. So that's one of the best soundtracks for a game, that not just in the music that you do find throughout the game, but the overall score was just brilliant, the atmosphere that it created. So the game, to me, the success of that game is the only thing that really makes me not want to see the parents fight.
Yeah. And it was a very smart move by Konami to send Kiefer Sutherland, because imagine if a Konami representative was there to accept that award. Yeah, the house would have been torn down.
Yep, would have been some pretty nasty riots.
Yeah.
All right, gents, time to move on to something we've been teasing for, 3 episodes now, and that is Jessica Jones. We're finally going to talk about it. The Marvel TV series, or Netflix TV series of the Marvel character. This is the one that follows on, or the second release in the 4 that Netflix got the rights to, being Daredevil, which has already been out, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage. So we've all mostly watched our way through it. I know, Wes, you're still sort of plugging away at it, but you've got a fair way through. I want to warn viewers right now, there's a really good chance that there's going to be a lot of spoilers in the next few minutes. So thanks for joining us if you don't want to watch those spoilers. And we're going to dive into it, though. So first of all, general impressions of the show, guys. What are we thinking, Darren?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I loved Daredevil when that released. I didn't know how they would be able to top that, or even come close to delivering the same sort of show with Jessica Jones, and I believe they did. I'd have to watch Daredevil again to know whether, I'm not sure which one I prefer, because it's been a little while since I watched Daredevil, but yeah, Jessica Jones really impressed me.
Very tonally different to Daredevil, isn't it?
Yeah, they were very different, but still very believable in being in the same world. So,
I think that's the word too, believable, because I think I guess the use of powers and stuff like that isn't overbearing, and it's still got that sort of earthy grittiness. It's definitely, it feels like a real story to a certain extent, where I guess there's real sex, I guess you could say. Which in a Marvel kind of universe is really rare. So to see that actually portrayed on screen, I think they've done a really decent job at it. I'm impressed. And the villain, I mean, he's like, I didn't anticipate. I think he's the 10th Doctor from Doctor Who. Is that right?
David Tennant.
Yeah, he does a really good job without, again, being ridiculously over the top. So, I like the way it's all come together.
I was genuinely impressed. As you mentioned, the powers were really subtly done. I think for the first few episodes, at least, all you see her do is break a few locks. It's not overbearing. And David Tennant as the Purple Man, or Kilgrave, his powers don't seem to be, like, initially you're almost sort of wondering whether she's making the whole thing up. I thought they were really clever about the way they presented that. It didn't feel, as you say, over the top superhero Thor calling down lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, completely terrifying, those powers and what he could do with them. So, which I thought was really interesting as well. They went places that I never expected in a Marvel show. Anyway, as far as what he made people do.
Yeah, it was a really interesting take on the. I mean, because effectively it's just mind control, but they explored some really dark places that he went with it, even though they didn't necessarily, sometimes they did, but didn't really necessarily always show it on screen. What do you think, Mick? You've literally just finished watching the last episode about an hour ago?
About 5 minutes before we started the podcast, I finished the last episode. And I have to say, at first I didn't think I liked it more than Daredevil, but having recently just watched Daredevil again and now finishing Jessica Jones, I really do like the way that the story goes and the direction that they've taken this type of story. It's completely different to Daredevil. Daredevil feels very action-packed compared to Jessica Jones, which it has its fair share of action and that grittiness, but it does tell a very dark story, a very good way without going too dark. I don't know if anyone's read any of the Jessica Jones literature. It is actually very, very dark. Like, it's hard to believe that some of it's actually been published with some of the things that Kilgrave does in that. And I'm glad they didn't go to that extent in the show, because it would probably have been a bit too far, borderline like Serbian film, but
yeah, definitely a slow boil. Or don't watch any, don't read about it while you're on the cast. Save it to you. I'm going to put it out there. I think it's my favourite theme song to a TV show I've seen in a long time. I loved it. I know it's a small thing, but I found, even with Daredevil, by about the fourth episode, I was fast forwarding that. But I love that intro. I think it's classy, it's exciting, and it really sets the tone for the whole show.
Yeah. I haven't seen enough of Nick Cage to stop calling him Spartan Locke yet, though. So maybe that'll come with a few more episodes, because he is obviously at
Luke
Halo
Cage?
5.
Yeah.
Luke Cage, there you go.
Yeah. Not enough to
Sorry.
remember his name either.
That's right. Every time I see him, I'm going, Spartan Locke, Spartan Locke.
Yeah. Or Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage, yeah.
Well, I think Luke Cage definitely comes into his own later in the series. So once you get onto that, you learn a bit more about him. You sort of see the direction they're going to take with the standalone series as well.
We
Beautiful.
obviously know Luke Cage. Man, you've got me confused now. We obviously know Luke Cage is going to be the next one. They obviously still, I think they've only just found a showrunner for Iron Fist. But how do we think this is all going to feed in together? There's been speculation that this will feed into the Avengers 3 potentially. What do you reckon? Is that what's going to happen, or you reckon they're going to keep it separate for a while?
They have thrown some references, so
yeah, they're in the same universe, but I don't see them appearing on screen at the same time. I think they'll keep it separate, and I think that's perfectly okay. They're obviously going to introduce more characters through it. We're getting Punisher in the Daredevil Season 2, which is the next one we're going to see. There's been rumours about Moon Knight being part of it and Blade being part of it as far as these Netflix series. So,
Blade?
I'd rather them. I mean, it'd be cool to see them on screen, but I think they've already got enough characters in those movies to do that. I'd rather see them keep bringing these more street level characters into this Marvel universe. The Netflix universe. And then obviously got Defenders coming, but bringing in doing a Blade series or a Moon Knight series would be really cool.
And I'm not sure how they could sort of introduce Jessica Jones into the world of Captain America and keep the grittiness of Jessica Jones with the cleanliness of Captain America. Captain America.
Do you think that, given that, frankly, the rave reviews that both Daredevil and Jessica Jones have received, do you think Marvel are going to shove some more work Netflix way in regards to other heroes? Do you think maybe Ghost Rider? Just putting it out there.
I think he'd be harder based on the CG that'd be required, but I'd throw as many at them as you can because they're doing a great job.
Yeah. And they're popular. I mean, people love watching them.
Yep, this is very, very true. So, any parts, I guess, of Jessica Jones that really stood out to you guys? Mick?
Without giving too much away, definitely.
We've prefixed with spoilers, mate. You can spill your guts.
When they really start to figure out who Kilgrave is and what made him as such, that he was a terminally ill child that had some pretty serious experiments done to him to become what he was, and I think season 2 will probably go into that a bit more when Jess finds out how she got her powers. I think that that file that Trish has is going to explain a hell of a lot. So more so than what has already been explained. Just finding out the origin of Kilgrave was really interesting to me. So,
what about you, Wes? You haven't seen as far through as we have, so hopefully this hasn't ruined too much of it for you. But of what you've seen, what do you think? What bits have stood out to you?
Yeah, I like the way they add that kind of thriller element without being necessarily super grotesque. Like, it does add that suspense, and they have like a slow build on Kilgrave at the very, very beginning. You don't know if Jessica Jones is just this crazy individual or kind of what's happening. So I like the way that Kilgrave is introduced into the show, almost non-existent for the first couple of episodes, and then kind of really comes to life and become more prominent. So the way they've really introduced the action, and it does have that more earthiness kind of. It could be a real scenario kind of vibe to it. That's been the part that I've sort of taken away.
Darren, anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, the thing that I probably like the most about it is the same as what I did Daredevil, is the humanizing of the villain. I think they did a really good job of probably more so in the later part of the series of making you, I guess, to an extent, see Kilgrave's side of things a little bit, like they did with Kingpin in Daredevil. I think having the villains focused on a fair bit makes it a lot more enjoyable to watch. I mean, it's something that the Marvel movies have generally cocked up a fair bit. But yeah, it makes me really excited for what's gonna come, because that side of it, and also how different it was from everything we've seen before, as far as the thriller side of it, I guess, was also really good.
I really like the film noir elements of the whole thing. I think they handled that really well. I would say that my favourite part, probably close to what Mick was talking about, was sort of towards the towards the end of the second third of the series, where they've captured him and they've got him in the tank, and you start finding out all this stuff about him. I thought they handled it really well, because there was points there where you're sort of saying to yourself, maybe she's making it all up. It could be all a lie. It's really hard to tell. They blurred that line really well. I think that was it really stood out to me. And again, as you said, Darren, making Kilgrave so relatable for someone who is so unrelatable, it was quite an amazing feat. There were some great teasers for season 2, as Mick said. Do you think that they're going to expand on? Is it Trish, her companion?
Hellcat.
Hellcat. I was going to say she's in the comics. She's a hero of sorts. Do you think they'll expand on that?
Yeah, I think they started it with the when she took the Captain America serum. Yeah, I think that's going to be where she gets her powers from in the show, and maybe that'll spin off and that'll be another series they do. They do a Hellcat series rather than just having it as a progression in Jessica Jones. But who knows what they've got planned? They've been pretty successful. They're probably going to try and crank out as many as they can.
Very good. So I think the general consensus of the cast is, if you haven't watched Jessica Jones yet, you probably shouldn't have watched the last little bit we've spoken about, but you should go and watch Jessica Jones because it's awesome. Yeah.
I just on the whole Marvel Netflix relationship, I don't want them to go and release too many too quickly. Like, I do like the fact that there are only a few at this point in time. I would hate to think that there's like a dozen series all running at the same time. I just think that'd be almost Marvel overload, which is, probably a risk with everything that's happening, whether it's games, movies, and the TV series. So, I like the pacing at the moment, but I don't want overload. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I think they want to do 2 a year, last I heard, so they'll drop, which is basically how long it was between the last 2, so, and then Daredevil is going to be early next year, so 2 a year is fine. If they push it out to 3, it's probably, because they all drop at once, and a lot of people do just binge watch that over the weekend it comes out, it still does feel like there's a long time between series, so I don't know, I reckon they could do 1 a quarter, 1 every 3 months, and that's still plenty of time for people to have watched one series and be ready for the next.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well, folks, I think that's probably brought us to the end of tonight's podcast. We've covered
I've got one more piece, Michael.
Whoa.
Late breaking news that's 2 years late, and that's that Minecraft is coming to the Wii U. So, yeah. If you're a big Wii U fan and you've been waiting, now's your time.
Time to pounce.
You 3 people who own a Wii U, A, and B, have not played Minecraft.
Exactly.
I did read about this. It's got the offline support. They're actually making better use of the tablet than Nintendo have. So, kudos to them for that. I think it was Mojang announced it too, which kind of was a bit...
Yeah. And how did it miss the whole Game Awards thing? I thought that would have been a decent announcement for that event. But there you go.
Considering it dropped at the same time anyway.
Well, I think Nintendo were wrapped up in doing that tribute to Iwata. Was it Iwata? I can never remember his name.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, as I was saying before, so rudely interrupted, that has officially brought us to the end of the podcast now. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me tonight. Darren, Wes, and Mick. Thanks a lot for joining me, fellas.
Well, thanks for having us.
I'd like to remind everyone that next week we're going to have a super duper special. It's going to be our big GOTY discussions. So expect a lot of faces in the podcast. As always, make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel for the latest updates. Head over to aussiegeek.com.au for news and reviews. We've got Facebook and Twitter, but also Patreon's a big one for us. If you head over there, I think we're actually up to our second milestone now, which means that all Patreon donators or subscribers, I guess you'd call them, now are going to start going in the draw to win free stuff every month. So just by donating, you're in the draw. So bit of incentive to give back to you guys, but it also helps us make the content that we're working on. So again, I'd like to say thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.